My long-term friend has become very annoying since she became a mom. Background info. My friend and I have been friends since we were 13 years old, and now we are 27. She got married and had her first child at 24, second child at 26, and has decided to be a stay-at-home mom. Her husband has newly become a cop. I have been a nurse for 5 years, I'm childless, in a long-term relationship for 7 years. My friend drives me absolutely nuts with her constant sob story about being a stay-at-home mom. Yesterday evening, we went to the gym together, and when leaving, she asked if I work tomorrow, and I said no, and she replied, "Oh, well, I do. I work every day." I'm so freaking tired of her implying that it must be nice for me to only work 3 to 4 days a week, even though that is a full-time job as a nurse. If I have a day off where I exercise and do my hobbies, it's also looked down upon. I feel that she is always comparing our situations when they are not comparable. I can see how exhausting it would be to spend almost 24/7 with 2 toddlers, and I try to empathize with that. However, that's exactly why I don't want a kid right now. My life is not the way that it is by accident. I have chosen to create this chapter in my life that is all about me and exploring my free time and my career. She is constantly listing off how she is a chef, a nurse, a driver, a maid, a mom. And sometimes I just want to say, "Oh, really? You are a nurse? Do you want to clock in for my 12-hour shift and tell me that it's not as tiring as what you do? That it's not as overstimulating as staying home with toddlers? Where did you earn your bachelor's degree?" Also, if we are going to call doing basic stuff to maintain our houses and feed ourselves a job, then I'm also a maid and a chef. I personally don't look down on stay-at-home moms. My older sister has chosen that lifestyle, and I think it has worked out wonderfully for her and her family. My problem is that my friend is comparing our lives and constantly throwing a pity party while putting me down. I'm just done feeling like I can't talk about being tired or overstimulated or burnt out because I'm not a mom. Or I can't talk about positive things like trying a new workout or going on a vacation because she is a mom, so she doesn't have time for anything. Somehow I'm not a real adult with real responsibilities because I have chosen not to have a child yet. Am I being too sensitive, or am I interpreting this wrong? Am I lacking sympathy for her situation? Update. Yesterday we were hanging out and she was venting about family members being flaky when it comes to babysitting. The conversation took a sharp left turn, and she starts telling me how out of all her friends, she wouldn't trust me to babysit because I don't know her kids' routine, and she wouldn't even be able to trust me to give them a snack. I took a breather and expressed how disrespectful and belittling these types of remarks feel, but I'm not sure I can come back from this remark. It seems clear that she is not capable of accepting that we are in different stages of life without looking down on me and belittling me. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. When she puts you down, simply say, "I understand that being a stay-at-home mom is difficult and I want to be a support for you. However, if you continue to criticize how I've chosen to live my life, I'm going to have to step back from the relationship." It's totally possible for her to complain about her life without putting you down. She puts you down because she is jealous. Reminding her that this is the life she chose might help. It might not. I've had this happen with some friends, and it's not easy. I'm direct to protect myself, though. I've been a people pleaser, and I do my best to not prioritize other people over my own self and mental health. If she is embarrassed, that's on her. She is the one who is putting you down, not the other way around. Edit. Spelling error. Comment 2. A situation like this, if you truly value the friendship, probably requires a light touch, at least initially. When it comes up again, you could try using a bit of humor like, "Okay, name, well, it's not a contest," in a light joking tone, and some variations on that. Basically, highlight this unhealthy pattern of behavior without making a big deal out of it or triggering a defensive response. But hopefully, it will bring a little more self-awareness on her part. Just be very careful not to play into the comparison framing by either downplaying her struggle or emphasizing your own. If that doesn't help after a while, then you might need to be a bit more direct about it, as other commenters have mentioned. Now for the update. Thanks for sticking around to hear more about what's been going on. So, a lot has happened since the last time I talked about my friend. Just when I thought things couldn't get more tense, they did. Last Tuesday, I got a call from her in the middle of my shift. Her husband had been injured on duty, nothing life-threatening, but enough to shake everyone up. She was a mess, understandably, and needed someone to watch the kids while she went to the hospital. I was her last resort, and despite everything, I couldn't say no. I rushed over after my shift, exhausted but ready to help. The kids were already asleep, and I sat in the silence of their home, feeling the weight of her earlier words. It was like she had forgotten all the times I had been there for her before she had kids. I remembered us at 16, sneaking out to concerts, the promises of being there for each other no matter what. It stung to think that she now saw me as unreliable. The next day, she came back with her husband, who had a broken arm and a bruised ego. She thanked me, but there was a tension between us that hadn't been there before. She mentioned needing more help in the coming weeks, and I felt trapped between my desire to support her and the need to stand up for myself. As the week progressed, her requests for help increased. I was juggling my shifts, my relationship, and now, her emergencies. It was Thursday when she asked me to take her kids for the weekend because she and her husband needed to figure things out. I was planning a quiet weekend with my partner, who had been feeling neglected amidst all this chaos. I was torn. On one hand, I wanted to be the friend she needed, but on the other, I couldn't keep setting my life aside. I had a hard conversation with her explaining that while I cared for her family, I had my own life to manage. She was upset, saying I didn't understand because I wasn't a mom. That hurt, but it also sparked something in me. I decided to take a bold step. I organized a small network of our mutual friends and family to create a schedule to help her out. It wasn't just on me anymore. Everyone pitched in a little, and it was enough. She was initially resistant, feeling like I was pushing her problems onto others. But eventually, she saw the benefit. It gave her the support she needed without straining any one person's resources too much. The weekend came, and instead of babysitting, I spent it reconnecting with my partner. We talked about everything that had been going on, and I realized how much I had been neglecting our relationship. It was a wake-up call for both of us, and we made a pact to prioritize our time together more. By the end of the week, things had settled into a new normal. My friend's husband was on the mend, and she was learning to lean on the support system we had created. She even apologized for her earlier comments, admitting that she had been unfair and that she valued my friendship. I guess sometimes it takes a crisis to see things clearly. I learned that I could be there for my friend without sacrificing my own happiness. And she learned that it's okay to ask for help, and that doing so doesn't make her any less of a supermom. Thanks for reading about the roller coaster of a week I've had. My boyfriend wished I was dead when he got mad. So I changed the locks, told my boss, and left him crying alone with his lies. We've been together for a year. When my boyfriend gets mad, he tends to be as vicious as possible as an attempt to push people away from him. His words. He's told me a lot of mean things over time, such as, I'm useless, I'm unlikable, I'm an intimacy worker, I'm dumb. I've never dealt with consequences, so I deserve to be treated with tough love. He mentally checked out on me and only stays because it's easy, and that the only people who would care about me if I died would be my parents. He claims to not even remember saying half these things, and that he usually says them when he's trying to show that he's not hurt vulnerable. I'm not perfect either. When I'm annoyed or upset, I tend to be silent, which is usually what triggers him to get that way. I suffer from depression and anxiety, and recently I've been going through some difficulties at work, and the disorders have become more heightened than usual. We got into a minor argument the other week, and he told me that I was a miserable human and that I was going to live a long, lonely life. I retaliated and said, with the way my depression is going, I doubt I'll live very long. He then responded and said, do the world a favor then. I was hurt and stopped talking to him for the rest of the day. The following day, he apologized for it, and I decided to move past it and chalk it up to him just trying to be spiteful, rather than actually meaning what he said. 3 days ago, we got into another argument. Our physical intimacy has been very minimal over the past few months. He will sometimes talk about being physical, but doesn't start anything, and I'm the same. Neither of us really makes the move onto the other. So I decided one night to initiate things. And he told me he felt dirty because he hadn't showered yet and asked if we could continue later. I agreed, and then we ate dinner and played some video games together. He then asked if he could play FIFA with his friends for a bit. So I decided to go shower and make myself more desirable for our later plans. After about 2 hours, he came back and told me he was going to shower and work for the rest of the night. I was extremely disappointed, but didn't want to interfere with his work. So I just went to sleep without mentioning anything. I know I should have mentioned what I was feeling in the moment. The next day, I was still annoyed that he forgot about our late night plans. So I wasn't really texting him throughout the day like I normally would. Eventually, when I came home, we had another big argument about it, and he once again told me he wished I'd died. I know he did it because he knew I got upset about it the last time. He then told me I'm boring, and he and his ex used to be intimate every second day, and he's dated women that are hotter and smarter and more successful than me. I couldn't take it anymore and asked him to go back to his place. He refused and physically grabbed my phone that I was holding and told me if I didn't try to fix it with him, he was going to wipe my phone's memory and then break it. I didn't know what to do, so I just went back to my room and he decided to leave. He then got into his car with my phone and left. Eventually, he came back and we sort of made up, but then he left again the next day. And now we aren't talking after he sent me a text to never message him again because I'm an evil person. And he'll just ignore anything I say. Well, I didn't message him, and I know he's probably mad at me for ignoring him now, but I keep thinking back to how he told me he wished I was dead. I know I'm wrong for not communicating and being distant, but I still think that wishing death upon a person is extreme. I've never said anything of that caliber to him, and it gets really frustrating that anytime I bring up something that does bother me, he gets mad or sends me laughing emojis. So I tend to be more withdrawn whenever I'm hurt or mad at something he does. Is it wrong that I just can't get over his comment? For the most part, he is very generous and loving in other ways and made a ton of effort to see me. But I'm wondering if his pushing people away habit is too much to deal with for a lifetime. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. This is one of the worst posts I have read on here. I am serious, this is not normal. I feel for you because you do not know how good of a loving and caring relationship you can have. I highly recommend seeing a therapist so that they can help you gain the courage to get out of this horrible arrangement. Comment 2. He is a dangerous person, and you should quietly remove yourself from this situation. It is not your job to help him with his anger issues. When people make threats, you should believe them. He is telling you the type of person he is capable of being. No loving person makes such threats. Now, for the update. Thanks for sticking around to hear more. Just when I thought things couldn't get worse, they did. My boyfriend's behavior escalated beyond anything I could have imagined. Last Monday, he showed up at my work unannounced. He made a scene, accusing me of cheating because I wasn't answering his texts fast enough. My boss saw everything. It was humiliating. I had to explain it was a personal issue, but I could tell my boss wasn't convinced. That night, I confronted him about it. He just shrugged and said he needed to make sure I wasn't lying to him. His lack of remorse was like a slap in the face. I realized then that his apologies were empty, just a way to keep me around. The next day, I found out from a friend that he'd been spreading rumors about me. He told people I was the one who was unstable and making his life miserable. It was a gut punch, realizing he was manipulating the narrative to make himself the victim. I was at a crossroads. I could either stay and endure more of this, or I could leave and face the unknown. It was the hardest decision I'd ever had to make. I spent the next few days in a daze, trying to work while my personal life was falling apart. My performance suffered and my boss pulled me aside. He said he'd noticed a change in my work, and that if things didn't improve, he'd have to let me go. That was the wake-up call I needed. My job was on the line because of the chaos my boyfriend was causing. On Thursday, I made a choice. I changed the locks on my apartment. It was a small, symbolic gesture, but it felt like I was taking control of my life again. When he realized he couldn't get in, he called me, furious. But this time, I didn't cave. I told him it was over for good. He threatened to spread more lies about me, to ruin my reputation completely. But I stood my ground. I told him I'd rather rebuild my life from scratch than live in fear of his next outburst. The following day, I went to my boss and came clean about everything. I explained the situation and how it had affected my work. To my surprise, he was understanding. He offered me a week off to sort things out and said we'd work on getting my performance back up when I returned. It's been a week since I ended things. It's not been easy, but I've found support in friends and family who had been pushed away by his behavior. They've helped me see that I'm not the person he made me out to be. I'm starting to feel like myself again. I've also started seeing a therapist to work through the emotional toll this relationship has taken on me. It's helping me understand that his cruel words were a reflection of his own insecurities, not mine. I'm not sure what the future holds, but for the first time in a long time, I'm hopeful. I've taken the first steps towards rebuilding my life, and it feels good. Thanks for listening. My work fling cheats at her own birthday party. So I expose her lies and watch as she loses her job, and I find true love. So lately I'm seeing a girl from work. She is only working every second week for a day and not part of my team. She is 26 years old, W. I'm 28 years old, me, M. We just started seeing each other 3 weeks ago. So far we had intimacy twice. We never spoke about being exclusive or anything like this. Yesterday we both celebrated our birthdays and me and some friends went to her party after mine ended. There she was sort of cold to me and at some point started to make out with another dude really long with me clearly seeing it. So my friends pulled me away from the party and I slept at one of their places. She then had obvious regrets, asking me where I went, if she did something wrong and so on. I didn't react and told her we can talk tomorrow. Now I met her today. I told her that this was not okay, that she can't treat me like shoot, that I'm not a plaything, and that the trust for me is gone. She apologized pretty sincerely and told me that she had a blackout and can't even remember, that she doesn't know how that happened. And, I don't know if I believe that. At least I guess she didn't blame anyone else and accepted that she made a mistake. I still talked to her beyond that. She told me that she wouldn't do that if we were exclusive and that she feels like shoot. I told her that I believe that, but I felt like shoot my entire birthday and also that that's the proper feeling for what she did. I told her that mistakes happen and that it's about her to get my trust back, that it doesn't work for me without trust, and that if she really wants this, then we would have to start from zero and be real honest and exclusive. She said she wants that and that she wants to work for it. I'm also not in town for a week and told her that I don't want contact with her in that time and that I needed space to think about it and that I would contact her after I'm back. Now I'm still really confused. On the one hand, I really enjoyed the time we spent and I also enjoyed the talks we had before. On the other hand, I also understand very painfully that betrayal can repeat itself. Even though we hadn't talked about being exclusive, the fact that she did it to my face makes it really hard for me. Even harder than if I wouldn't have been there. I'm still trying to figure out if I can forgive a mistake like that, especially this early on. If I'm really honest, I want to give her a second chance to see if she really does work for my trust. The other thing is, I don't know if I can forgive it and also forget it, and neither if I should, because I believe I probably shouldn't. My idea right now is to let this sink in for some days and see how I feel about it in a few days. Like I said, I'm in theory willing to forgive since we hadn't defined exclusivity, but then I don't really know if I can and should. So my question to the lovely people of Reddit is, should I give her a second chance and risk being hurt? Or should I accept the pain right now and leave? Did anyone ever have a good experience with giving someone a second chance? Thanks so much in advance. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Cut your losses and walk away. Not worth the aggravation. Get out now before you invest any more time. She might not have done it on purpose, but do you really want to be with a girl who gets blackout drunk and makes out with strangers at parties and can't even remember doing it? Comment 2. There are 2 types of people who claim they were blackout drunk. Those who are lying to avoid responsibility and cut off any discussion, and those who are alcoholics. Neither makes a good partner. Now for the update, Thanks for sticking around. A lot has happened since my last post. After I left town, things took a turn. My friend, the one I crashed with after the party, called me up. He said he needed to talk. Turns out, the girl I've been seeing, she's been playing more than just me. My friend caught her getting cozy with another guy from work. Not the same one from the party, a different one. This was before the whole birthday mess. He didn't want to tell me at first, thought it wasn't his place. But after what happened, he couldn't keep it to himself. I was fuming, all the apologies. The talk of blackouts, it was all a show. I felt like a fool, thinking about giving her a second chance. I wanted to confront her right then and there. But I was out of town, and maybe that was for the best. Gave me time to cool off, think things through. When I got back, I didn't call her. I wanted to see what she'd do. She reached out, said she missed me, asked if we could meet. I agreed, but only in public. We sat down at a coffee shop, and I laid it all out. Told her what my friend had seen and how I knew about the other guy. She didn't deny it. Instead, she broke down, said she was going through a rough time, that she didn't mean to hurt anyone. She said she wanted help, wanted to change. I didn't know what to feel. Part of me was angry, wanted to walk away and never look back. But another part, maybe the fool in me, felt sorry for her. She looked so lost, so desperate. I told her I couldn't be with her, not after everything. But I also said I'd help her find a therapist, get the support she needed. I guess I still cared, despite it all. The next day, I heard from another coworker. The girl had been fired. Turns out, she'd been caught stealing from the company. It was small stuff at first, but it added up. They'd been investigating for a while, and with everything else, they had enough to let her go. I couldn't believe it. The girl I thought I knew, she was nothing like I imagined. I felt betrayed, but also I couldn't help but think, maybe this was what she needed. A wake-up call, a chance to start over. I didn't want anything to do with her, but I hoped she'd find her way. Just when I thought things couldn't get more complicated, my ex reached out to me. She'd heard about the drama, wanted to make sure I was okay. We'd ended things on good terms, and she'd always been someone I could talk to. We met up, and it was like no time had passed. We talked for hours, and by the end of the night, we were back together. It's been well. I'll just get into it, but I'm in a better place now. I'm with someone who respects me, and I've learned a tough lesson about trust. It's not something to give away lightly, and it's even harder to rebuild once it's broken. Thanks for reading. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.